If you've ever missed us, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, folks, and welcome back to another episode of Benzinga's Pre-Market Playbook. And of course, Happy New Year. It is great to see a whole bunch of returning faces here. And thank you for being patient as we were off a week, as we kind of retooled the show. Turns out a week wasn't quite long enough, so you can expect a couple more additions coming here over the next week or so. But it is great to see a whole bunch of returning faces. And boy, 2026 kind of kicked off with a bang, didn't it? How about that? We're going to break all of that stuff down here today. It is Monday, January 5th, 2026. And Benzinga's Pre-Market Playbook, the first show for 2026, starts right now. Good morning morning and welcome back, folks. It's great to have a whole bunch of returning faces here. I love seeing all of the energy in the chat. Welcome back to Benzinga's pre-market playbook. Now, as mentioned here, just to kind of get a couple of the new things out of the way, we mentioned we were going to retool some of this. I've got a new camera here, so hopefully you get a better view of everything that's going on. Also, we are changing the show. So the show, remember, it's going to be an hour shorter. We're actually going to end at 10 a.m. Eastern today. As we play with new segments and things like that, we may change that. But for right now, starting off the year, we're going to end an hour sooner. As mentioned, this should actually help the algorithm on the back end. 13 is back, and 13 will be joining us in an hour here. So for the first hour, we're going to talk about news. We're going to talk about the macro theme. We're going to talk about tweets, financial related tweets that might be out there. We're going to get you all prepared for the day, and then we're going to bring on 13. We're going to prepare you for a bunch of movers, and we are going to sit through the opening bell with you. Now, the other thing that you can expect this year, we're going to continue doing interviews. We're going to continue to interview CEOs. We're going to continue to bring on guests like Tim Melvin and Mark Petrino and the T3 guys. So all of that great content you can still expect to see here. We're just going to try and make it a little bit more structured here for you in 2026. I'm excited, and I hope y'all are excited too. Let's get right into it. The countdown, by the way, user requested feedback, by the way, really good idea. We're going to keep doing that. Maybe we'll shorten it to 3 minutes. Maybe we'll put some more exciting music on there. We shall see. The producer's got his work cut out for him. Brent is first here today. Big Hurt, good morning. First of the year, too, Brent. How about that? Welcome back. It's good to see you. I hope you're ready for a 2026. Good 2026, that is. Jane, good morning. Welcome back. It's great to see you. Brian, good morning. Happy New Year. Hope everyone had ample time to recharge. 2026, we are back and better. Indeed, we are. Let me tell you something. This is my favorite time of the year. And I haven't had time off in a long time, and it was absolutely fantastic. Spent a lot of time with friends, family. And yeah, Brian, I watched a lot of football as well. A little bit disappointed with yesterday, but we're still in the playoffs. So a lot of really good stuff out there. It's great to have you back. Zach, good morning. Happy New Year and good luck with the new format. Hope that you like it. Keep the feedback coming. Remember, this stuff is for you. We want to make it as valuable as possible. We definitely wanted to sharpen up and professional up a little, if you will, from last year and years past. So appreciate that and appreciate your support. Big Dave, good morning. Welcome back. Crimp Biscuit, good morning. Welcome back. Buffalo by Bicycle, good morning. Welcome back. Peter, good morning. Welcome back. EKS, good morning. Welcome back. H&H Tactical, it's great to see you again. 2026 is hot already. Indeed it is. Indeed it is. Angelito, good morning. Welcome back. Dirkus, good morning. Welcome back. I did have a wonderful holiday. Thank you very much. Hopefully you and yours did as well. And that goes to everybody out there. Nice little time to reset, recharge. Hopefully you all had a great little break. Kevin, good morning. Welcome back. The producer's locked in after his round. Thank you, producer, for helping get some of the new stuff ready here today, too. Really appreciate that. Corey, good morning. Welcome back. G-Cord, good morning. Welcome back. It's great to see you. Live to trade and trade to live. Good morning. Happy New Year. It is going to be a prosperous one. Happy to have you here. We're going to make it even more prosperous. Jabes, good morning. Welcome back. I hope I pronounced that correctly. H&H Tactical says early start. Yeah, we wanted to do the countdown. Remember, there were some folks that said they didn't get the opener. There was something at the beginning. We were able to slip an ad in there a little bit. So yeah, countdown. Really good. Really good start here. Ezra, good morning. Happy New Year. It's good to see you again. Sun-Kissed Yogi, good morning. Welcome back. Whis, good morning. Missed you guys. We missed you too, Whis. Actually, I talked to 13 a couple of times over the break, and I was like, hey, I missed the group. But we back. We back. Kimo Sabi, good morning and Happy New Year to you as well. Jim, good morning. Welcome back. Perfect Coles Barbecue. Ooh, I could go for some barbecue already. Good morning and welcome back. Matthew, good morning. Happy New Year and bear down. Well, they didn't do it yesterday, but we are going to the playoffs. We got the Packers coming up here, so should be fun, right? Coming up this Saturday. Should be fun. Neville, good morning. Good to see you again. Born to be free, good morning. Good to see you again. Day Trader, good morning. Great idea with the countdown. Yeah, Day Trader, whose idea was that? Can't remember. Some guy named Day Trader, I think. At least it worked. At least you enjoyed it. Really good stuff. Bernhard, good morning. Welcome back. Forever to Bitcoin. Good morning. Welcome back. Empyrean, good to see you again as well. Welcome back. Akab, good morning. Happy New Year. Yes, that girl. Happy New Year. Let's go. Indeed, we will. Welcome back. Crankbait, good morning. Who else am I missing here? ACBM, good morning. Glad to see you back. Thank you. Glad to be back. It's always good to be seen. Good to be back here. Can we give your view on SanDisk? Yeah, we can add SanDisk to the list here. We have kind of another theme going on with oil right now, but we will absolutely take a look at SanDisk. That's been kind of a big trade at the end of 2025, and we're expecting more stuff in 2026. So we'll absolutely take a look at that. Just passing through, good morning, welcome back. Ed's already booing us, so the universe is in order. Lambo Rolls, good morning, welcome back. Russ, good to see you again. Good morning, Happy New Year. Flag Drones, top of the morning to you as well. Dive Deep, good morning, welcome back. Oh, I see, Ed, you were just booing us because of the 11 o'clock time. Right. Well, like I said, let's see how this goes, and let's see what takes place this year. Let's just put it this way. We did not carve the rules into stone, so some of those are still fungible. Let's see what we can do. But for right now, it is going to be 10. Cam, good morning. Happy New Year. Kenneth, good morning. Chopped Coop, good morning. Welcome back. Carlos, it's good to see you again. Welcome back. C Boogie, good morning. Welcome back. Good to see you again as well. ACA Bavesh, good morning. Welcome back. Big Hurt says go Canes. They're going to be pretty good, actually. Cam, good morning. It's good to see you. I'm sorry, I'm probably repeating some of this because I'm so excited. I apologize. Brandy, good morning. Welcome back. Happy New Year. Cam says, I hope you framed that Scorpion pick. You said you would last year. I see what you did there. That's pretty good. I am going to do that, but I haven't gone out to do that yet. Bart says, get to it. We are getting to it, Bart. That's what we do here. We welcome everybody in. Good morning. Good to see you again. You're learning nothing so far. Well, stick around. Stick around. Probably go make another cup of coffee, too. That might help as well. Rooster, good morning. Welcome back. Castle, it's good to see you. Purgatory Park, good morning. Welcome back. Rhodes, good morning. It's good to see you. Shady, welcome back. Jay Harris, welcome back. Jane, good to see you again. Sassy Butterfly Chick, Happy New Year. Brian, good morning. Welcome back. Coin, good morning. Blazed Rhino, good morning. Pretty Panda, good morning. Parvez, good morning. Omerica, good morning. All right, we are off. Let's go ahead and get started with our stock market today. Got to get my morning update page. Okay, futures in the green ahead of Monday's open here today. S&P futures up 0.25%, Dow futures down 0.1%, and the NASDAQ future holding on to green up 0.64%. So the Dow has moved down a little, although it was green earlier here in the pre-market. Now, let's take a look at some cues from last session here. Oh, I got to share my screen. My bad. Boop. There we go. All right. Let's take a look at some cues from last session here. On Friday, the U.S. market saw broad gains with energy, industrials, materials, utilities, healthcare, financials, real estate, and information technology all finishing higher, while consumer staples, communication services, and consumer discretionary stocks were the only sectors to decline. Now, what's going on here? As mentioned, 2026 kicked off with a bang. Futures are up here in the pre-market, at least so far. We'll see where we close. But over the weekend, the U.S. struck Venezuela and toppled Nicolas Maduro's regime. On Saturday, President Trump announced that U.S. oil companies are preparing to invest billions in Venezuela's oil industry after the removal of President Maduro. The objective, as stated by Trump, is to restore Venezuela's dilapidated oil infrastructure and kickstart revenue generation for the country. Obviously, this is going to have a tremendous effect on crude prices and also oil-related stocks. Crude prices were swinging early on Monday as WTI's February futures were trading 0.05% lower at $57.29 per barrel following those geopolitical developments. Meanwhile, the 10-year Treasury bond yielded 4.17%, and the 2-year bond was at 3.46%. Now, we do have some stocks in focus here today for you. First one is going to be Vertiv Holdings. The ticker on this one is VRT. Shares jumped 1.62% in the pre-market on Monday after Barclays upgraded it to overweight from equal weight, as per an investing.com report. And the odds of the Ohio-based AI infrastructure provider joining the S&P 500 index stood at 75% on Polymarket. So remember, we've seen some of these other S&P 500 inclusions really lead to a decent run. Right after that is announced, Vertiv looks like that might be next on the list. Next stock on our list here is going to be Nucleus. That's ticker NUKK. Nucleus rose 3.79% after closing its $14 million acquisition of Titan Software Engineering, an Israeli defense software company whose AI-driven technologies are embedded in defense programs. Now, we've seen NUKK move like crazy before. This is definitely one to keep on your watch list here for today. We'll see how this ends up trading. The next one here is going to be Ironwood Pharmaceuticals. This is ticker IRWD, and it advanced 2.81% after the company issued full year 26 guidance. Ironwood expects 2026 Linzess U.S. net sales of $1.125 billion to $1.175 billion, with total revenue expectations of $450 to $475 million. The company expects 2026 adjusted EBITDA of over $300 million. The next stock on our list here is going to be Brand Engagement Networks. This is ticker BNAI, and this is another one that we have traded off of the scanner and the movers list plenty of times in the past. Shares climbed 8.22% after recently announcing it has entered into a vendor services project agreement with a global advertising and communications agency. So perhaps some more upside here for BNAI. The next stock on our list here is going to be GH Research, and the ticker on this one is GHRS. That soared 19.05% after the company announced it would provide an update on its FDA IND status and phase 3 program for GH001 in treatment-resistant depression. Right, let's go back and take a look at the SPY chart. Let's see how it sets up here. Thank you, producer. Let's see how it sets up here for 2026. So this is what we're looking at. Daily chart, ticker SPY, and we are still sitting sideways here, which is basically where we were at the end of the year last year. We are right above the 20-day moving average, and we are also holding above the 50-day moving average. That's been one of our indicators that has been a short-term indicator for trend. Both of those, the 50 and the 20-day, have helped us with trend, and both of these showing right now that we might have some positive momentum. Now, key levels for today are obviously going to be those two moving averages. The 20-day moving average is at 683.77, and the 50-day moving average is down there at 679.04. Let's just call it 679. We are putting in what kind of looks like a double top right up here around 690. I would just kind of estimate that an upside resistance area would be about that 690 area. Let's see if we can pop through that and then maybe go on a run here to start off the new year. If I back out, you can see we have actually fallen out of this channel as we've continued to trade sideways. A big up move will maybe extend this channel and see if we get back in to it. But right now, still trading sideways. Really want to see if we can take out this kind of, I know it's not like a very clean triple top, but basically we have these three resistance points. It's right up there near 690, 690, 691, 689.75. That entire area right there is going to represent the upside breakout area that we are trying to take out. We'll see if we end up getting that here today. Again, futures were green. They're down from their highs here today, but looks like we're still kind of in positive territory there. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some insights from analysts here based on the Eye on the Market 2026 Outlook, which is by JP Morgan. The expectation for 2026 is one of continued, albeit challenged, strength in U.S. equity markets and economic stability, underpinned heavily by the technology sector and AI-related spending. So the AI theme not going anywhere. It's going to be huge here in 2026. We all already kind of know that. Specifically, JP Morgan anticipates a market trajectory similar to 2025, a potential 10 to 15% correction at some point due to profit taking and a growth scare, but ultimately concluding the year with equity markets higher than where they began. Now, this is pretty common. I believe Tom Lee has a $7,700 price target on the S&P cash. He is also forecasting a 10 to 15% move down, typical correction. You could call it garden variety correction, if you will. You'll recall that our show, our group here, we've thought the same thing for a long time. Definitely think that there's a down move coming. Is it going to be an end of the world down move? No, of course not. In fact, if everything else is pretty good around it, it actually should be a buyable down move. Of course, predicting when that's going to happen, that's always the hard part, but it looks like several folks here, several pockets of folks here really kind of looking for a correction at some point this year before finishing higher. That would be great for us alongside long-term traders, no doubt. The optimism persists despite concerns over market concentration, where 65 to 75% of S&P 500 returns, profits, and capital spending since the launch of ChatGPT in 2022 have been derived from 42 companies linked to generative AI. So generative AI, or AI in general, huge theme in 2025. That's not going to slow down here in 2026. Economically, the report highlights the outsized role of tech investment, noting that tech sector capital spending contributed 40 to 45% of U.S. GDP growth over the past 3 quarters for 2025. While inflation risks from tariffs and labor shortages remain, consumer spending is expected to hold up in 2026. We saw that around the holiday season there as well, aided by tax adjustments. However, the report cautions that when markets are highly concentrated and near all-time highs, the right question to ask is what could go wrong? Now, what I will say here is that a big-time shout out to this entire group, because all of last year, particularly at the end of last year, y'all were focused on the metals, kind of diversifying. You folks weren't getting caught up in this concentration, and as a result, there was money to be made in some of those outsized metal moves, and we're expecting more of that here today. Now, if you're already positioned in metals, probably pretty good. If you're expecting a sell-off at some point here this year, maybe even early in the year, should have some pretty good protection with those existing positions. Now, let's take a look here at some of the upcoming economic data. December's ISM manufacturing data will be out by 10 here today. On Tuesday, we're going to have Richmond Fed President Tom Barkin speaking at 8. And also the December S&P final U.S. services PMI out by 9:45. On Wednesday, we're going to have December's ADP employment out by 8:30, December's ISM services index data, November's job opening data, and and October's U.S. factory orders data will be released by 10. And Vice Chair of Supervision Michelle Bowman will speak at 4. On Thursday, we get initial jobless claims. And on Friday, we get the employment report. So as if we did not have enough going on with the geopolitical news, it's also jobs week here this week. And we are expecting some more data prints later this week. Okay. The next thing that I wanted to talk about here real quick, just kind of we briefly touched on the Maduro being removed there. Well, this actually affected some other stocks in the market, and those are namely going to be Delta and American here. So really quickly, if this might have flown under the radar, give it some of the other news that was out there over the course of the weekend. Delta and American Airlines have added several additional flights as thousands of travelers were left stranded in the Caribbean. Not a bad place to be stranded, frankly. I think there's worse places to be stranded, but nonetheless, we're left stranded in the Caribbean among flight restrictions imposed by President Trump's administration after it carried out the Venezuelan raid to remove Nicolas Maduro. Students returning to school were left stranded due to uncertainty around flights. That came from Business Insider. Catalina Rodriguez, a veterinary student, cited in the report, said that she was supposed to be flying with American on Saturday, but her flight was delayed. Rodriguez also mentioned other classmates being stuck due to cancellations. Stranded passengers also face uncertainty over refunds and accommodations due to those cancellations. Anyone that's been in that position knows how much that sucks, as operators do not legally owe passengers compensation because of the cancellation stems from government actions. That was per the report. Some flights were still operational, but took significant detours, the report mentioned. Delta Airlines issued a statement on Sunday announcing additional flight operations on its Caribbean network. Quote, Delta has proactively added more than 2,600 seats through extra flights through the Caribbean network for Monday, January 5th, but added that some flights could be delayed on Monday. American Airlines also announced that it added nearly 2,000 additional seats in Caribbean operations, on top of its 5,000 it had announced, which comprises a total of nearly 7,000 seats with 43 extra flights to boost capacity. The operators also shared it would be operating intra-island flights in the Eastern Caribbean region with 2 special flights connecting Anguilla Walla Blake, or AXA, and Beef Island, British Virgin Islands, EIS, to San Juan, Puerto Rico, which is airport code SJU. The news comes as Transport Secretary Sean Duffy announced that flight restrictions were being lifted and airlines would be able to carry out flight operations in the Caribbean region. Back in November, the Federal Aviation Administration, or the FAA, warned flights against flying over Venezuelan airspace at all altitudes, citing threats to the aircraft's safety. So we'll see how that changes, and we'll see how the added flights do for ticker DAL and ticker AAL. When we left off last year, there was some worry about the airlines being decent trades. Is travel going to continue? Are consumers still spending? Do you really want to own a business that's not very well run? The holiday season is big for travel. It'll be interesting to see what kind of numbers these folks report, especially with this additional thing, if you will, layered on top of it. Bourne says flying sucks nowadays. I agree. It seems to be more of a headache than anything else. Okay, we talked a little bit about silver. We talked a little bit about metals. I know that there were a lot of bullish views here, and we would not be doing our job if we did not talk about the other side of that trade. So here goes. Silver stocks are caught in a hype loop. Senior mining analyst says investors could face liquidity issues and dangerous exit conditions ahead. I'd be curious for anyone that is in a metals, I guess in particularly silver, for anyone that's in a trade, do you have an exit plan right now? Are you still kind of working on that? I'd be curious to hear what you think about all of this. But nonetheless, as silver prices touch multi-decade highs, a senior mining analyst is sounding the alarm against rising investor exuberance, particularly in the junior mining space, which primarily consists of companies involved in the early exploration and development of mines. Appearing on Resource Talks podcast on Saturday, Joe Mazumdar, I hope I pronounced his name correctly, who is a senior mining analyst at Exploration Insights, said he has become increasingly uneasy with the way some investors are valuing silver companies, pointing to what he describes as overly simplistic. Quote, what I've seen out there recently, that kind of rubs me the wrong way. End quote. Now, real quick here, Cam says, exit plan is my trailing stop. This is exactly what I wanted to see. Whenever you have one of these things that runs and makes a huge run, like an outsized move, I really think a trailing stop is a good way to do that. The broker will take care of it for you if you forget or get tied up with something else, which happens to me all of the time. So, Cam, I'd like to know if you're willing to share what else comprises that trailing stop. What percent? Any? Are you exiting the entire position? Are you scaling out of it? Any of that? But I do think that's the right way to go. Mazumdar said a growing number of silver stocks are rising despite having little to justify the move. Fundamentally, as investor enthusiasm appears to be overtaking basic due diligence. And this is one of the things that I was worried about when we saw gold really kind of make that huge move, silver following along with it. My thought was, well, if it moves a lot very, very quickly, there are definitely going to be people that get trapped in this whole thing here. Maybe we've had kind of a exaggerated move. This gentleman is saying that there's very little to justify some of these moves, maybe not in the price of silver itself, but perhaps in some of those junior miners. Goes on to say, quote, they haven't had a lot of operational success. They're carrying debt that's due next year. And yet stocks continue to rally alongside the price of silver. Remember, when it's a theme like this, theme me up, Scotty. The entire sector seems to move. That's exactly what we got with gold and silver there. He cautioned that today's enthusiasm could unwind rapidly once prices turn, creating dangerous exit conditions for investors. Quote, there will be a liquidity issue when you want to sell, end quote, noting that investors will head to the exits all at once when the prices of gold and silver drop. And this is exactly why I was asking, do you already have a plan? Because if you already have a plan, I feel like you're one step ahead of the game, and perhaps you will not be caught up in the rush to the exit door, which can only take so many people at one time. If you have a pre-plan for that. So I like that. Lion, good morning. Happy New Year. I know that you were talking a lot about metals here. I would imagine that you're trading some of them, booking some of those gains. I know there were short and long-term instruments out there being used. So just curious on how what your exit plan is for that. Are you doing it partially? Or are you just holding it long-term? Let me know. Mazumdar said the surge in financing activity across the sector is beginning to resemble classic late cycle behavior, a pattern that often appears when market optimism peaks. Quote, everything is going up. Everybody's got the same valuation, end quote. Junior silver miner ETFs have posted strong performances over the past year, rising in tandem with the commodity. A couple of tickers here. We look at them occasionally here. First one's going to be SLV. That's the iShare Silvers Trust. We also have SILJ. That's the Amplified Junior Silver Miners ETF. We have Coeur Mining, that's ticker CDE, and then we have Hecla Mining, ticker HL. Those have triple-digit performance across the board on all of those. Now, while not all silver mining stocks are worthy of the sheen, the metal's underlying momentum itself continues to remain intact, with experts predicting significantly more upside this year, following its 155% rally in 2025. So the experts out there, despite the huge move, not ready to ring the register on this yet. That's why I wanted to know from y'all folks what the plan is here. Looks like we are expecting more bullishness for these stocks in 2026. Economist Peter Schiff has termed the rally as a rotation away from stagnating assets such as Bitcoin. I am completely unsurprised to have a Bitcoin dig from Peter Schiff here, but nonetheless, he's termed this rally a rotation away from stagnating assets like Bitcoin. Oh my God, you got to be kidding me. Giving rise to what he called the biggest precious metals bull market in history. So let's just stop right there. Do y'all folks believe that this is the biggest precious metals bull market in history? If the answer to that, I don't know what the answer is, but if the answer to that is yes, that certainly seems like 2026 is going to be another positive year for a lot of these metals. For anyone that's interested in Schiff's actual tweets, I'll go ahead and drop this story in the chat here. All of the tweets will be linked in there for you as well. Schiff, however, said last week the commodity's monumental rally is yet to be fully priced in among miners and junior miners. In a post on X, he said that given the sharp rise in prices over the past month, silver stocks should have doubled, while adding that investors continue to remain in denial. Well, not all of our investors remain in denial. Looking at you, Lion. Looking at you. CoinFox says his plan here is to trim and trail. Jay Harris saying Bitcoin's going back to 120,000. Johnny, good morning. It's good to see you. Happy New Year. I did have a great holiday there. Let's see. Day Trader says Bitcoin is just cycling through the fallout of the 1010 liquidations, right on schedule for Bitcoin to reclaim 100K about 3 months post-incident. You know what's funny about that, Day Trader? I was preparing and kind of half listening, but I'm pretty sure Tom Lee said something very similar as early as this morning. I'd have to go back. I don't want to say I'm not 100% confident in all that, because like I said, I was doing something else. But I don't think you're alone in all of that. Okay, next story here, going to be related to the space theme. That was a monster theme for us in 2025, likely to continue in 2026. L3 Harris to offload a majority stake in space propulsion business for over $500 million. Now, L3 Harris Technologies, sometimes we talk about this one, not one of our more, I want to call it popular stocks that we trade here regularly. Ticker on this one is LHX, and it's in the defense sector there. LHX is reportedly on the verge of selling a 60% stake in its space and propulsion business to private equity firm AE Industrial Partners. The deal, which is expected to be finalized soon, will see L3 retain a 40% stake in the business with an enterprise value of $845 million, with AE Industrial paying over $500 million for its 60% stake, and that is per a Reuters report yesterday. The acquisition could open up new opportunities for AE Industrial in space exploration and the Pentagon's Golden Dome initiative. So right off the bat here, sure seems like space defense and space plays also likely to continue in 2026. The space propulsion assets being sold include the RL-10 second stage rocket engine, a crucial component used in the Vulcan rocket, which was a joint venture between Boeing, ticker BA, and Lockheed Martin, ticker LMT. L3Harris will, however, retain full ownership of the RS-25 rocket engine, currently in use on NASA's Space Launch System for the Artemis program. L3Harris and AE Industrial did not immediately respond. Of course, with space being a huge theme for us, I will obviously continue to update this if we do get any updates from any of these companies. The space theme not going away at all. We'll continue to talk about it. We'll be here to trade it as well. The impending sale comes as L3Harris continues to focus on national security, shedding some of its NASA business lines. In December, the company recently secured a contract worth up to $843 million to build 18 more infrared national security missile tracking satellites, which will be integrated and tested at its Palm Bay campus. The company reported better than expected Q3 earnings with a 7% year-over-year increase in total revenue. L3Harris CEO Christopher Kubasik said strong demand, record backlog, and early investments in growth areas such as space and munitions keep the company on track to meet its 2026 financial targets and support long-term profitable growth. Also worth mentioning here, per our proprietary Benzinga Edge rankings, this stock scores high on momentum, very high on quality, not so great on value, although that may change as well. Still pretty good momentum stock here for you. Ticker LHX. Again, not one that we talk about often, but perhaps we should. Now, one of the other things that I wanted to talk about here was retail. Let me actually go back to Benzinga Pro for a moment. We'll start with two charts here real quick, just to kind of get the lay of the land. Here's Amazon. Now, I know one of the things that we talked about with Amazon towards the end of the year is this going to get a boost from the holiday spending? Well, looking at the chart here, this thing really hasn't done much since July, to be quite honest with you. Sure, it's gone up and down, and we had this one pop here at the end of October, beginning of November. That was very quickly sold back down to balance, and we're still kind of in this sideways range. So the way that I would kind of look at this is this rectangle here, right? Well, this is pretty much the area that we want to break out of. Break out, break down. I'm not going to fight you on which direction you want to trade Amazon. I personally like this to the upside. I use Amazon for both product delivery as well as video delivery and all of that. But this is pretty much the range that we need to see fall. Or we need to move out of here. Now, the good news, we're still above the 200-day, and we recently lost that 50-day. We tried to recapture it, couldn't close above it. Maybe we're making a move down to the 200-day here. It's worth noting the last 3 times we came down to this 200-day, we bounced significantly, and all 3 of those setups would have made pretty good swing trades here. The 200-day moving average on Amazon is at 217.19. Current price is $10 away at 227 and change. The other retail stock that I wanted to take a look at here real quick is going to be Walmart. This has actually fared better than Amazon. And it's a little bit sideways, but still has an upward trajectory and an upward sloping 200-day. This recently has been trading sideways right beneath its 20-day. So we were just talking about Amazon and where that was at. Honestly, this Walmart chart, it's set. If this can recapture, I don't know that it's going to, but if this can recapture, close above 113.82, maybe let's just call that 114. Perhaps Amazon setting up for another move to all-time highs here in 2026. This chart actually looks a little bit more primed, if you will. Now, let's get to some of the news on this. Forget Amazon. The brick and Mortar retailer giant is Wall Street's top idea for 2025, and here's why. TD Cowen's Oliver Chen said he remains optimistic about consumer momentum heading into the new year, citing a strong holiday season as a key driver behind his outlook as he appeared on CNBC's Closing Bell on Saturday. The holiday period was very good, end quote. He added that it prompted his team to raise their estimates by 4 to 5%. So this is one of the data points that we were looking at. And Oliver Chen is telling you here they actually had to raise estimates after that data was aggregated. Chen pointed to a sharply divided spending landscape, noting that the top 10% account for 50% of spending. This is nothing new than what we have discussed at the end of last year, while consumers overall remain highly selective. However, he noted that despite persistent macro challenges in 2025, he said the consumer has and will continue to be resilient, supported by low unemployment and savings in dollars on the sidelines. His top pick for 2026? Walmart. Against this backdrop, Chen sees Walmart, ticker WMT, as his top retail pick for the year, citing its ability to serve high-end customers as well as being a retailer very famous for value. Interesting way of maybe hitting both sides of that, catering to middle and low-income consumers. Quote, Walmart is our top idea for the year. Walmart is our top idea from the year. He was highlighting the company's upcoming CEO transition, which he said was happening from a position of strength. Chen also praised outgoing Walmart CEO Doug McMillon for positioning the company very strongly against Amazon. Remember all the talk about Amazon eating everybody's lunch and all of that? Well, looks like Doug McMillon did a really good job keeping Walmart competitive here, so much so that it's a top pick for 2026. By advancing initiatives such as Bricks plus Clicks, which emphasized the company's focus on both online and offline retail. Chen further highlighted Walmart's fast-growing retail media business, calling it a $5 billion business that could be much, much bigger with the potential to quadruple and generate 60+% margins. For a low-cost leader like Walmart to have another segment here having 60% margins, that would have to be very good for the stock. See if they can do that. He concluded by saying, overall, we're bullish for the consumer and the health of the consumer, with Walmart at the center of the table. Walmart shares were up 1.21% on Friday. They closed at 112.76. They were down a little bit overnight there, but as you can see, Walmart also scores quite highly on momentum and quality, and its value score right around the midpoint there at 46.4. So not really a terrible value score at all, given its high momentum score. So interesting stuff there. Now, we also have another rival here, and this rival made for multiple good trades for our group in 2025. And I'm talking about Dollar General here, ticker DG. Dollar General has seen a sharp increase in technical strength this week, with its momentum score climbing to 89.6. Just really quickly, I know I've focused a little bit on some of these momentum scores. Just remember that as a Benzinga member, either in Benzinga Edge or Benzinga Pro, you have access to our proprietary score system, which ranks quality, value, momentum, and growth on a 0 to 100 scale, and makes it very easy to consume all of this information, as well as benchmark certain companies versus others and scan for all of this stuff. So that's where all of this is coming from. We've spent a lot of time with Tim Melvin to make those ranking scores, and it really does make stock analysis a lot faster and easier. The surge places the discount retailer, that's Dollar General, in the top tier of stocks tracked just days before a key shareholder payout deadline. The retailer's momentum score outperforms its other core metrics, such as value at 52.63 and quality at 50.86. The specific metric tracks the speed and magnitude of price changes, indicating that market sentiment has shifted decisively bullish. Supporting this momentum score is a uniform positive trend across Benzinga's price indicators. It's got an intact short, medium, and long-term trend. Dollar General is currently rated bullish across the short, medium, and long-term time horizons. And earnings are going to fuel the rally. The technical breakout is underpinned by robust fundamental catalysts. The surge follows a strong third quarter earnings report where Dollar General posted adjusted EPS of 128, which beat the FactSet consensus of 95 cents. Big beat there. Following the beat, the company raised its fiscal 2025 EPS guidance to a range of 630 to 650. Wall Street responded with a wave of price target hikes. Telsey Advisory Group raised its target to 130, with Jefferies and UBS lifting theirs to 142 and 143 respectively. They cited improved traffic and margin performance. Now, investors looking to capture income alongside this capital appreciation might face a tight deadline. Dollar General is scheduled to go ex-dividend on Monday, January 6th. I think that actually means January 5th because that's today. To receive the upcoming payout, investors must own the stock before this date. So you had to buy this on Friday in order to capture the dividend. If you missed the dividend, no big deal. Looks like there might be some headway to go. Now let's actually take a look at this chart briefly. As mentioned, the ticker is ticker DG. This is what it's looked like. When we were trading this in 2025, we were talking about a breakout, a move above the 200-day. We got it. Once it broke, it kind of took a little bit of sideways action. Then it took another leg up, retested the higher level of the 200-day, and then broke out. Now it actually looks like we're kind of flagging up here. Sure looks like 138, I believe, 140. This 138 to 140 area going to be your next area of resistance on Dollar General. If we back out here a little bit more, you can appreciate the volume shelf that we're in. Looks like we might be trying a new volume node there, right? We've been in this kind of high volume node for all of 2025. Now, let's see if we can push above it. You can actually see how important this 140 level is. This goes all the way back to 2023. We actually did trade above this briefly in 2024, although we very quickly broke beneath this level. So I do think 140 to 160, that's going to determine where Dollar General goes next. I know there's been several folks that have been long on this name already. This was a great trade for us in 2025. Let's see if we can get the same thing there in 2026. Okay, let's see. Where was I at there? Okay. One more thing here, and this is just kind of a follow-up on one of the stories that we had talked about a little bit last year. AMD's gamer boom signals trouble for Intel's long-held lead. So we talked, I know when we've talked about NVIDIA and Intel and AMD in the past, a lot of it has been with the AI theme, but there's another theme here that really kind of the OG theme, if you will, for some of these companies. And I don't think that just because of AI, I don't think we need to write this off. I actually think this could be important. Advanced Micro Devices is gaining momentum in tandem with improving market share trends and renewed confidence in its artificial intelligence strategy. AMD stock has extended its upward move since Friday, supported by fresh data showing that the chip maker is closing the gap with Intel in the PC gaming market. According to the latest Stern Hardware survey, the study of Windows users running AMD CPUs increased by 4.6 percentage points in December, leaving AMD less than 10 percentage points behind Intel. Really quickly, just as kind of a personal anecdote here, I have been an Intel guy pretty much my entire life. When I was much younger, I tried AMD, and we're talking almost 20 years ago at this point. I've been building all of my computers since I was 14 years old. I'm in my 40s now, so it's been a while. I have pretty much exclusively used Intel, but in 2021, I switched over to AMD. I've had zero problems. I've had extreme performance for very little money paid. And it looks like that trend is continuing based on this recent Steam hardware survey. Over the past year, AMD shares of Steam's Window users climbed from 38.7% to 47.2%, underscoring a steady shift in gamer preferences. That came from The Verge on Saturday. AMD stock has gained 73% over the last 12 months, driven by investor optimism surrounding its OpenAI deal, the MI400 chips, and the Helios rack system, which is expected to be released in 2026. Last December, AMD got a boost from reports indicating Alibaba's Group Holdings Limited was considering a large purchase of AMD's latest AI chips. Reportedly, Alibaba is weighing an order of 40,000 to 50,000 MI308 accelerators, signaling strong near-term demand for AMD's AI hardware. So it looks like AI hardware ticking up. AMD closing the gap on Intel for gaming. Does that make AMD a catch-up trade going forward? TD Cowen views AMD as one of the top AI stocks to own, citing an attractive entry point after its recent pullback. On December 2nd, the firm named AMD's a best idea for 2026. So they gave this out to their clients at early December. It's early January now, so it's a little bit of a month stale. But the reality is that the pick is for the entire 2026 year here. Analysts said the stock's weakness creates an opportunity ahead of major product launches. TD Cowen cited AMD's steady progress in AI chips, enhanced software, and growing customer interest as key reasons for its optimism. So now that you have the news there, and now that you've heard what TD Cowen thinks, let's actually take a look at the chart. Here's what AMD's chart looks like. Kudos to all of you that traded this well in 2025. And if you missed it in 2025, no worries. You may get another opportunity here in 2026. So first of all, its most recent run from the fall, we had a huge pop here. We created an island. This actually gave a pretty decent island trade as it moved to the upper end of that trend line. By the way, that trend line, I believe, originated back here in 2021. I know it just disappeared. I believe that originated in 2021. We are now at this possible breakout spot. About 228, the 50-day moving average 227.61, and it looks like we're about to test that here. Can we recapture 267 and break higher on this move? Let me know if any of you are bullish here on AMD. You know what? If you're bearish on AMD, I'd like to hear that too, and I'd like to hear the reasons for that. We have Big B's here saying, so we'll be seeing some news out of CES over the next few days, and I'm sure AMD will have some consumer announcements. Indeed, Big B's, you're picking up what I'm laying down, baby. This is a good start to 2026. CES starts tomorrow. So a lot of the companies are actually going to be in play here. Obviously, the big players like NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel are going to be in there, but there's going to be smaller players there too. Some of the robotic stocks, Rich Tech Robotics, which has been a show favorite here, ticker RR, they're also going to be at CES. And thank you, 13, for posting the link to the CES Tech in the chat there. For any of you that want to take a look at all of that, here it is. Giddy up. Oh, I'm going to take a sip of tea. That was a perfect segue. That was perfect. Okay. There's recent AMD move. The one thing I forgot to mention here, obviously we had that nice push to the highs. The pullback was caught by the 100-day moving average. Looks like we had about 2 tests of that. Now we have a recapture of the 20-day moving average and a very strong move up to the 50. Can we recapture that and move towards these recent highs up around 270? We shall see. We shall see. Shamir, hello. It's been a while since I haven't been here. That's okay. We're still here. Welcome back. Happy New Year. It is great to see. Okay. Okay. 2 more things here real quick. And then I want to talk, one more thing here real quick. And then I want to talk about our macro minute, which is going to be another one of our segments here. What is the big macro theme driving the market? I think all y'all folks know what that is, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. I did really quickly want to cover this very small stock. This is ticker IFRX. Got to make sure I get it right. IFRX. This is Inflarex or InflaRx. It reopens a case for an axed phase 3 drug for a rare skin disorder. It's reviving hopes for vilobelimab. And I think this is one that we have talked about on the show together in the past. Vilobelimab, after new analysis showed signs of efficacy in a phase 3 trial it had previously halted, setting up FDA talks and potential partner-led path forward. Last Tuesday, the company outlined multiple data analysis of the phase 3 study for that drug that starts with the V that I've butchered several times. In pyoderma gangrenosum, or PG, which is what I'll call it for short, which was terminated earlier in 2025 after an independent data monitoring committee recommended that the trial be stopped due to futility. Subsequent post hoc analysis suggests a positive trend in favor of that drug, with signals indicating a potential consistent treatment effect. So maybe this is back on here. IFRX might be one to add to the watch list for news along this. Remember, we have talked a lot about biotechs really kind of being a live theme at the end of 2025, and I don't want to write that off here in 2026. This is one of the movers that we've traded before, and it looks like they might have some more news flow coming in the near future here. PG is a rare, painful skin condition characterized by red bumps that quickly develop into large, deep, open ulcers, often with purple, undermined border, although it's not caused by infection or gangrene. Oh, man, it sounds awful. Let's get these people some relief. FDA discussions and potential partner strategy. As the next step, Inflarex anticipates meeting with the FDA to discuss a potential path forward for the drug in PG, including the use of alternative endpoints that could be utilized for potential future clinical studies. In an effort to prioritize another one of its drug developments, INF 904, Inflarex does not expect to deploy significant resources towards future drug development for its PG drug on its own, and will consider doing so in collaboration with a partner. Now, this is important because this could actually help the way the stock trades in the back of some of that news if they do have a partner to maybe offset some of this. The primary clinical endpoint for complete target ulcer closure on 2 consecutive visits showed a difference in favor of a viobemilab over placebo of 20.8% versus a 16.7%. The key secondary endpoints, such as a complete disease remission, complete closure of all ulcers, showed improvement in favor of the lobemilab. God, I hate this, over placebo. So it looks like this drug here actually does do a pretty good job. We'll see if they get any more studies or trials about this. That could actually lead for a pretty good trade here. Future post hoc analysis show that there is an overall treatment effect with this drug compared to placebo. These include MMRM, a mixed model represented measures for percent change in target ulcer volume. The analysis also suggests that treatment longer than 26 weeks with this may provide improved treatment outcomes. So IFRX, we should be hearing some more news about that here in the near future. It's been a mover before, and it could very well be a mover again. Now, I do want to go back to the charts here. Let's talk about the big theme here. And when we bring 13 on, I'm definitely going to ask for his opinion too. This is actually a really good point to remind everybody here. I know several of you have already taken advantage of this, and that's fantastic. But I just want to plug Benzinga Pro once again. First of all, Benzinga Pro is at the heart of almost everything that we do here at Benzinga. This is our financial news wire that delivers real-time news, as well as stock stats, information, trading ideas, the whole 9 yards. One of the other things that Benzinga Pro has is chat rooms, and 13 and I have opened up a chat room that mirrors our happy hour Zoom call that we do at the end of the day, Monday through Thursday. And I know with the show being shorter here and with kind of a lot going on, if you want to stay up on this, if you want to stay up on all of that stuff, be sure to scan the QR code that is in the banner. Check out Pro. You don't have to go for the full-fledged model. If you just want access to the chat, you can go for the basic level of the chat, and you can trade along with 13i and the rest of the Benzinga ecosystem in multiple rooms throughout the course of the day. So that is always an option for you. Had to plug it. Sorry about that. But let's talk a little bit about some of the big macro themes. And I think at this point now, the big macro theme is going to be oil and what's going on in Venezuela. Now, let's take a quick look at some of the oil stocks here. I know Chevron is going to be one of these that is probably looked at first, given that they have a lot of operations in Venezuela. You'll see here the news desk has assigned a whim to this. Chevron shares are trading higher after President Trump said the U.S. oil companies are preparing to invest in Venezuela's oil industry after the removal of Maduro. The company is the only major American producer still operating in the company with a special, still operating in the country with a special treasury license. So, makes complete sense. Given what we saw over the weekend here, CVX is moving. Here's the interesting part about this. This stock has really kind of been sideways to drifting down really since 2022, right? We had a nice move up here. This was at the beginning of 2022. And then since then, the stock has really kind of been stagnant. Now, if we zoom into where we were at recently, we were doing a really good job holding this 200-day. Obviously, we've oscillated back and forth through the 200-day in both directions quite a bit. But recently, we did a really good job holding the 200-day. And now, given the news here, all of these stocks are doing the same thing. This is up 6.46% here. This is actually popping to the top end of that range. I got to think, and I'm going to assign a range here. I'm going to say 168 to 173. That $5 range in there, if we're able to clear that out on CVX here, we might have another move towards some of these all-time highs. This is what the chart looks like on a monthly chart. We had that nice impulse move that took us up towards this 175, 180 area, and then we've kind of come back a little bit. We're actually riding the 50-month moving average there. Chart looks primed to move to the upside. That's going to be CVX. Now, the other one here is going to be ConocoPhillips. And my personal thought on this whole thing, and again, I had no idea any of this was coming. Obviously, nobody did. What I will say here is just kind of my knee-jerk reaction to this. My thought is that Conoco might have the most to gain in the short term. And the reason for that is because they're actually still owed $10 billion from Venezuela as its assets were seized like 10 years ago. And now with Maduro removed, part of me wonders what the next step is here for Conoco. We have another pretty decent setup here on the chart, right? So very much like Chevron, which we just took a look at, we were above the 200-day. We're actually had a number of these moving averages really kind of compress and stack on top of each other here. Sure looks like when I zoom off or zoom out from this, it sure looks like we had this nice move, some very clear resistance up here, 135 to 140. We've moved back off this. We've recaptured the 200-day. Today's pop, Conoco up 5.6% here, taking us just shy of that 500-day moving average, 103.11 there. So this whole thing, this to me, this chart, very much like the Chevron chart that we just took a look at, this looks like this might trade higher here. And let's see what happens with those assets. We're talking about investing in Venezuela. Maybe they're able to give some of these back or get some of those under their control again. We'll see here. COP, another one on that list. Now, Big B's here mentioning XOM. Big B's saying XOM, baby. That's, of course, going to be ExxonMobil. Here we go with the ExxonMobil chart. This one chart a little bit different than the last two charts that we took a look at. Obviously still in the same theme. This one actually looking a little bit stronger. Perhaps a possible breakout incoming. Let me know, Big B's. I know you had said XOM baby there. Let me know if you think that we have a possible breakout here. I can't remember if this is one of the leap trades that you took for all of 2026 here. Let me know what you think about that. We are testing a breakout here today. And in fact, let's see if I can get you an exact value or area here from this candle. Looks like the high here, 126.34. We are at 126.39 now. XOM, it sure looks like this is going to move higher. So Big B's, let me know if you have a target for all of this, for this trade here today. And okay, it is just about 9 o'clock. We are expecting 13 here any moment. As soon as he's here, we will bring him on and we will break down some of the morning movers here. We'll call that segment Pre-Market Pulse. So if you're looking for that segment to prepare yourself every day, that's what it will be. And we will pretty much do this here at about 9 o'clock every single day. So let's just go ahead and do that. Just to kind of wrap up this segment here, the macro minute today and probably all of this week. We'll see how long this theme lasts. But the theme here today, it's going to be oil. It's going to be oil, and it's going to be what is happening down in Venezuela. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started with our pre-market pulse segment of the show. In order to do that, we're going to need to bring on the one and only 13. 13, good morning and Happy New Year, buddy.
Happy New Year. Can everybody hear me? Just want to make sure everything's all good.
Sound great, dude.
All right. Happy New Year, everybody. And what a year it's already been.
I was gonna say, I'm on PTO. I'm thinking, we're gonna ease into 2026 here. We had a really good 2025. We're gonna ease into 2026 here. I wake up on Saturday morning and I was like, we ain't easing into anything. We are just full send into
Coming out high.
2026 here. And that obviously has a lot of different market implications. So 13, I will start off with this. Instead of just diving right into the movers, we're going to have plenty of time to cover those. We're going to go ahead and do that here shortly. I definitely want to get your thoughts here on this macro theme that we're currently entering. Is there anything here stock-wise, theme-wise, that you think would be valuable to the audience?
I think you did cover some of that already with some of these energy companies that have a lot of development potential in Venezuela and are also owed money by Venezuela. You had pointed out that CVX is really the only one that has limited operations, and I don't even think they're profitable operations. They're just operations to maintain their costs. So they're just there, not really making money, but they still have a presence. And then, of course, ExxonMobil and ConocoPhillips also owed money by the Venezuelan government after it was seized by Hugo Chavez. Also, along with those companies, you also have Halliburton, SLB, Weatherford, and Baker Hughes. These are the oil field servicers. They're also owed money because they had their assets seized. So they could be potential claimants for compensation as well. But aside from energy, there's also going to be some other big companies that we could look at that are going to help with the redevelopment of their infrastructure. And that's going to require a lot of financing. So South American banks are going to likely do really, really well. You're also going to have telecoms companies that are going to do really, really well. So American Tower does have a presence out there building the cell towers. One company out there that or in South America that has a large presence is Telefonica South American. That's ticker TEF. So just some ideas that we can take a look at here in light of all this movement that's happening with their government and the seizure of Maduro. I think it could be very, very positive for South America. So I think I'd be looking at those industries aside from oil, the banks, infrastructure plays. This is going to be about the time where we could see more stability return to South American countries.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And a couple of action points to take advantage of right away. First of all, I believe that Tim Melvin actually already had some South American banks in his portfolio. What I will do when we see him next, and I'll confirm with him today, but I believe he's on the schedule for this Wednesday. I'm going to ask him about that. I'm going to ask him specifically about South America. It doesn't have to necessarily be Venezuelan, but South American banks that are set to maybe benefit from all of this. I completely concur with you. I think that this is a good thing here. I also think, taking a look at oil here, what was interesting to me is that as soon as the news came out, as soon as the futures market opened, I should say, oil dropped and then very quickly recovered its drop. Oil is actually trading higher here by 1.05%, still below 58, actually 57.92 on the crude futures price right now. This has been a big, let's call it a lever in inflation. And one of the things I want to see how this plays out is if this does cause oil prices to stay lower or maybe even move lower from where they're at now, what effect does that have on inflation? I think there's a positive aspect there. And there's also geopolitical aspects here regarding Russia, China, and Iran that I think are going to come into play. Now, we're not going to solve everything here on day one, so I don't think that we need to do that. But just kind of looking at some of these charts, I think that this is the start of maybe a potential trade.
Yeah, and Brian's absolutely right about how this is harming China's access to oil. I mean, they still have Russia, and Russia's a very big oil-producing country, but they've been getting their refineries and oil-producing sites hammered with Ukrainian drone attacks. But hey, F around and find out, right? So there's that whole situation over there and I don't think this is really going to necessarily be as big of a problem for Russia as it is for China. And when it comes to oil, though, I think that what we're going to want to pay attention to, and I mentioned this last year, was the refining capacity of the world.
Mhm.
And the world's refining capacity is diminishing. This is for refining into fuels and whatnot. So California is, going to be closing refineries. We have refineries being attacked in Russia. That's, going to net negative us in refineries, starting this year. And I think that's going to lead, it could potentially lead to a crude glut. And we have this bottleneck in refining. So that's kind of what I'm looking at as potentially being a situation here in 2026, is that, yeah, we'll have plenty of oil, but we just are losing the means to refine it quickly.
Okay. All right. Let me just clean up a couple of things here from the chat immediately. Number one here, and I understand this, but I don't think this is a concern, at least not yet. Lion here saying, I'm old enough to remember the Iraq war and how nasty things got. And that's fair. Totally fair. So far, this looks nothing like what Bush did with Iraq. In fact, a lot of this is actually the opposite. So I'm not willing to necessarily go there just yet. Although I do think that's a good thing to kind of keep an eye on. We'll see how it plays out. I certainly don't know the future, but to me, this looks a lot different. Get in there, 13.
This is probably going to be a lot closer to what happened in Panama than Iraq.
Yeah, totally agree.
The Panama Operation Just Cause. This is what I was citing. Could actually end up happening here with Venezuela, and sure enough, we almost got an exact the same kind of thing. This happened in December of 1989. I forget the drug lord's name. It starts with an N.
Noriega.
That's right. But we went in there, captured him, established a democratic government, and to be fair, it hasn't been all gumdrops and roses. It hasn't been a smooth or great transition, but they're a much better country than they were back then. They still have poverty issues, understandable. I'm not going to try to paint this in a favorable light. It hasn't been smooth, but it's much better than what they had before, and they're actually able to have an economy now, and not just one that's run by a drug lord.
Yeah, and I mean, the reality here is obviously this is going to be a huge theme and it's going to affect a lot of the stuff that we're taking a look at, and it can change. And being active traders here, that is going to give us an advantage to be able to change with all of this. Right now, sure looks like some of these charts are pointing to the upside here. One more thing I wanted to clean up here real quick. Jeremy had mentioned, I'm fairly certain a lot of oil was shipped to China. In fact, one of the things that I read was that there were a number of Venezuelan tankers that were already en route that have now turned off their transponder to try and get through the U.S. I don't know, blockade. That might not be the right word or whatever. So I think there's going to be more stuff that we're going to have to figure out there. I'm not sure that necessarily affects the trade early on here. That's going to be one of those continuing things that we need to monitor. 13, did you have something else you wanted to get in before we take a look at the movers?
Oh no, I mean it's just we're just still talking about the difference between the economies of the world and then the criminal economies of the world. And the money. I'm sorry, the oil was on a shadow fleet tanker that was they've been sending them to China. The U.S. ain't having this anymore. It's it's in a sense disabling the global oil economy by having like two different economies. So I think this is great that we're doing something about this shadow fleet.
Okay. All right. 13. Pre-market pulse has started. Let's go ahead and run down some of these movers. What do you say? Right. I'm going to flip over to the movers tab here in Benzinga Pro. Again, a lot of what we derive on the show here for talking points, trading ideas, a lot of this comes directly from Benzinga Pro. This is the heartbeat of what we do here at Benzinga. What I have here are basically just two tools designed to find gaps. And I have a couple of personal filters on here. The one for me, some of you folks know this, I don't like trading stocks that are under $1. It's just a performance thing. I don't do well. So like the old doctor adage, doc, it hurts when I do this. Doc says, well, don't do that. And that's exactly what I've put into place here with stocks that are under $1. The other filter that I've applied here is a minimum volume filter of 600,000. This puts the stocks that are gapping up on high volume in priority at the top of the list. So starting off with this, we got an oldie but a goodie. here.
Oh,
This is Verify Me. Now, this is another one of the themes that we had talked about. So in 2025, we had talked about potential themes in 2026 that are likely to take hold. And one of those themes was identification, verification, and authentication. I don't know if we want to call these the cations or what we want to call these, ID, whatever. I'll let you come up with something super clever because you're good at that. But basically, what we're doing here is we're thinking that this is some type of theme that we're going to be able to trade here in 2026. Verify Me here. This was a penny stock, but it is ramping on some news here. Verify Me and token economy leader Open World announced a plan for a strategic merger. Verify Me and Open World enter a letter of intent for a strategic merger. Merger would result in Open World shareholders owning 90% of the combined company. That's causing ticker VRME here to trade up by 67%. So stocks up 45% to a whopping $1.13. So just remember, this came from penny territory. A quick peek at the short interest per Benzinga Pro. 3.05% of the float shorted with 1 day to cover. That's negligible, I would say, in terms of its short interest. On average, the stock trades 513,000 shares per day. We've done just shy of 29 million here today. So 13, let me ask you, do you have any levels here? Or do you see anything here on Verify Me that entices you to trade this here today?
I took a quick look at this this morning, and it was under $1. So I was like, "Oh, this is interesting," because it's in the theme that we were just talking about here. But it wasn't, it wasn't over $1. And when they're not over $1, they tend to trade a little bit differently. So I was like, maybe not then. And if it can't get back up over $1, but here we are over $1, and it's looking like it's losing a little bit of altitude here. But if this comes back in, VWAP is at 101. So there's a level of support right there for it to keep it above $1. But it seems to be having trouble with getting over the 115 price. We did print above that, slightly up as high as 117, but no closes above 115. And if that's going to indicate to me that there's a bit of a supply overhead. Let's look at the daily chart and see what that shows us here. So 115. So this is, if you look at a daily chart, 115 is about where the price has been running up to. Even if you exclude the big impulse moves, it seems to have a hard time getting above 115. And if you look even further to the left, that's been a historical support and resistance area. So, and there's a lot of supply right in this area. So I think that 115 is going to be a big breakout spot for this stock should it hold above VWAP.
Okay. All right. Good stuff there on the first ticker here, VRME. Now, excuse me, next one that I have here, and I see Altamine has actually dropped on this list. Perfect. We got a bunch to cover here. Next stock on the list is going to be SolarMax Technology. This is ticker SMXT. Solar, another potential energy theme that we've talked about for 2026. And sorry here, I just want to take a second here to highlight this comment. Thank goodness you guys are back. I missed you so very much. Have a wonderful new year of prosperity. I will, positive comments like that will always get play here. Tara, thank you for the warm welcome back. Happy New Year to you and yours. And we also look forward to that here. It's good to have you back. All right. Back to the stock here, SMXT, SolarMax Technology. This is another little guy, former penny stock, now in dollar territory. As the stock is trading up 43 cents here today. If we take a look at the news, let's see if we have anything going on here. Indeed, we do. SolarMax Technology awarded $158 million EPC contracts for a 400 megawatt battery storage project in Puerto Rico. So $158.3 million agreement there. It's utility scale best projects in Puerto Rico. Pretty good. Stocks up by just about 40%. Negligible short interest on this one. 0.87% of the float shorted, 4.82 days to cover. That days to cover comes on a paltry average daily volume of 146,000 shares. Today we've done 11 plus million. I wouldn't worry about short interest on this. It should trade on its own merits here, but that's what's going on with this one. Oh, you know what? I forgot to mention its float. Sorry about that. Float here, 42.18 million on SMXT. You can see we got a pretty big spike up here towards 140. We've come back in a little bit, and in the process, we've lost that VWAP. 13, let me ask you, do you have any thoughts on this one here for today?
Yeah, it's in the battery theme. So
yes, it is.
That's one of the things that are looking to trade in 2026. Batteries, I think, are going to be a big theme this year. This is kicking the year off pretty well with a contract for 158 million. That's more than 3 times the market cap prior to this price action of the company. So really good news for them. Looks like this is bullfighting right here. So I would be watching for a recapture of the VWAP. It might come down a little bit lower, but I think you're going to get some support around 110, if not there, $1. If you look at a daily chart, $1 has a historical support and resistance at $1. So I think if we do end up going down there, we might see potentially see a reversal. But this current candle that we're in, this 5-minute candle, might be the last downside one. And if it continues to go to the downside even after this candle, then I think we're going to have to wait this one out, or maybe even look at something else. But this current candle that we're in might be the one where it takes it finally reverses and recaptures VWAP. So I'd be watching it here for a reversal and a recapture of VWAP. And if that happens, then maybe we do get go beyond 145, the high of the pre-market.
Okay, really good breakdown there. That's stock number 2 on our list, SMXT. The next stock on our list, and I know these stocks are changing around a little bit because the tool's live here in Benzinga Pro, obviously, but all of these stocks make up our morning movers. The next one here, several of you looked like you were already on this one here today, which is awesome. This is MNTS. This is momentous. Momentous shares are trading higher after the company announced the development of an additive manufactured fuel tank that is scheduled to perform flight testing aboard the Viogride 7 orbital service vehicle. So this is, I know I've been butchering a lot of
orbital. I like that one.
No, man, look, it's a new year, same problems, obviously, but it is what it is. MNTS, this is going to be in the space play here. This actually, if we zoom out here, you can see that this recently looked like this was trying to kind of trade up. Now we're doing so on the pre-market on volume here. Stock's up 60% at about 914 here. If I take a look at the short interest on this name, I don't have a prior read from the float short there. It looks like there was a recent reverse split on this that altered some of that, which is why that's the case. There's still 1.97 million shares held short, so there's still some short activity out there. Days to cover here is 1. On average, the stock trades over 500,000 shares. Today, it's traded 13 million shares, and I've got a float reading here of 1.6 million, so see if that differs from yours. What do you think here on MNTS?
Well, I do like the space theme for 2026, just like I liked it for 2025. And so far, we are having a great start to the year. This is not the only one up right now in the space plays, but this is the one that we're looking at right now. So let's talk about it. This additive manufactured fuel tank was done with in partnership with VELO, Velo 3D Systems, the same company that manufactures components for SpaceX. One thing that I want to point out with this company is that, yes, they did go through a reverse split last month, a 1 for 17.85. Don't ask me what about the decimal. I'm not going to tell you anything. So they did a reverse split, and that's why you're getting that funky short interest reading. And they may continue to issue more shares. I mean, they're likely to. They have a deal with Yield Point LLC to continue issuing shares at market price, and they just renegotiated as to how many they can issue. So they are going to need money. If you look at their balance sheet, they do need capital. So I would expect MNTS to do a capital raise at some point soon. Could be as early as today. They could issue more shares. Just keep that in the back of your head as you trade this. There is some resistance at 950. And if we do get past that 950 resistance, there is a gap fill from about 1080 that goes all the way up to 1450, which is also, interestingly, the 65 EMA on the daily chart. So those are some upside levels that you have there. We did recapture VWAP. That's a great sign for this break over 950. We'll see if we end up getting it into the opening bell here. But that gap fill, I think we should be paying close attention to, because we could end up getting that. And then after that happens, I don't even know if I want to take a look at it, because they still have that capital raise ability on the table.
Okay, there you go. Really good breakdown. Jay mentioning MNTS. Note the 3-year high was 174. We talked about the recent reverse split. That's one of the reasons why you're seeing that. So just keep in mind that is one of these reverse split folks. But okay, really good stuff there. Possible capital raise we're looking for here. 950 is definitely going to be a resistance area. I completely agree with you, by the way, 13. This is a nice little pullback hold of the VWAP. What do you got for us? Oh, sorry. I thought you were trying to get in
Yeah,
there.
no,
My
no,
bad.
I already said my whole spiel on it.
Okay.
It looks like we're trying to. Looks like the price is trying to get back up to 950.
Okay. Next here is going to be GHRS, and this is GH Research. And remember, this was actually one of our stocks that we had in focus here today. 13, I'd be curious to see what you think about this one. It announced it would provide an update on its FDA IND status and its phase 3 program for one of its drugs here. That's causing this to, remember, this started to pop here on Friday in the after hours. We've popped a little bit more here in the pre-market. The thing that I like the most about this is that we're actually doing that on more volume today than we did in the after hours. Here's what the news looks like here. Phase 3. So I'm just going to run through some of these different headlines here. Phase 3 initiation targeted for this year, 2026. FDA has lifted the clinical hold on GH Research investigational new drug application. And obviously, phase 3 is targeted for this year. Needham reiterates a buy, maintains a $19 price target. We're currently up here at $18.40 after this nearly 40% pop. So it looks like this is responding positively to all of this news. It is up near a price target. Let's use Benzinga Pro really quick to take a look at some of the other price targets here. It's worth noting that we had a Wainwright price target from the November of last year at 35. Needham is at 19. JPM, they have a price target from June of 2025 at 39. And we have Guggenheim at 29 from about May of last year. So we're kind of right at the bottom end of the recent price target range. Here's what the chart looks like. The thing that we've done here this morning, we pushed higher right up towards $20. Couldn't really get above that. We might have peaked above it, but we couldn't close above it. We've come in a little bit. We've actually lost the VWAP here, so still looking for a possible VWAP recovery here, or recapture here. And I do think that we are current. This is this $18. This definitely marks a support area. So if we give that up, we'll have to see what the next level for it to come in at as. Let's take a quick peek at the short interest on this name. 12.51% of the float shorted there with 10 days to cover. So this actually makes for higher short interest. Float on this one, 17.32 million. On average, it trades 323,000 shares. Today we've done 2.5 million. 13, what do you think here? GHRS.
Well, they certainly been anticipating this clinical hold to be lifted by the FDA. They actually announced that this news was coming on Friday. So they kind of gave us a little bit of a heads up that they were going to be making a big announcement, and this is what it was. So phase 3, that's basically the one of the biggest and usually the last of the clinical trials that most drug companies have to endure before they are able to bring their product to market. So lots of cash, 17.32 million shares in the float. One thing that I did with this, when I was looking at the technicals, I went to a daily chart. And if you back out to pretty much the entirety of 2025, you can see that there's a couple of times on the 31st of January last year and about the 21st of July last year. There's these two spikes that I drew a trend line from. And from the trend line, we were trading up. The price today was trading up into it. We actually broke over that in the pre-market here, and then came right back beneath it. So this is going to be a resistance area here, this trend line, and I'm going to be looking to see if this ends up breaking over it again once we open. We did get a breakout. It took us up to 2023. It didn't last. It actually came back in, fell beneath VWAP, but it isn't really breaking down. It's actually leaning on the highs from the after hours on Friday and the high from the pre-market opening print this morning. That's at about 1780. So that could be a support area if the price continues to leak further, which it could. It could continue to come in some more, maybe even as low as to where the 65 EMA is down near 17. But if that happens, I would expect that support could kick in. And if it does, we'll recapture that trend line that we drew on the daily.
Okay, really great job. I drew the same trend line there, marked it down. Really, really good stuff there. Okay, let's see. Next here is going to be DVLT. I know several of you are already watching this one. This is one that we've talked about already in 2025. Also kind of in that identification, authentication, verification theme that we've talked about. Data Vault here, this did look like it popped a little bit here in the pre-market, up towards 140 there, backed off a little bit, but recently recaptured the VWAP. The news here, Data Vault AI and available infrastructure to scale physical private edge cloud to deliver powerful zero trust cybersecurity, digital twin, and agentic data monetization to 100 US cities in 2026. Maxim also raised its price target to 4. That came from 3. So that's the news that's driving ticker DVLT higher here today. It's higher by about 30% here today. This has almost 11% of its float shorted on 1.23 days to cover. So elevated short interest here, but not terribly high. Float on this one, much thicker than some of these other ones that we take a look at. 263 million shares in the float. So it's not going to move like some of the low floaters. Just keep that under your hat. 13, you got any levels for DVLT?
Yeah, when I'm looking at the daily chart, one that stands out is that 130 to 135 area. That's where the price is at right now. You do have some pretty large sellers in the way at 135 to 140. So that's already kind of making it interesting. But then when you look at the chart, the daily chart, you can see why we have some of those sellers there. What's the 65 day EMA was support earlier this year, last year in November. We actually bounced off it, but then in December we lost that EMA, and we've been going down ever since. Now I'm going to be viewing it as resistance if we try to come back up here. That EMA is at 139, 140, right in that area. So that's going to be big resistance. And if you look to the left, you see that that resistance is also in the same area as the low from November, which is about 125 to 130. So that whole area right there that we're trying to get through right now is big resistance. So I would need to see a recapture of that 65 EMA on the daily chart. That's going to take us over 140. And if we get there, then I think that we could see maybe $2, 215 at the most. I don't know if we're going to go a whole lot higher than that. Additionally, what we could also do is draw a trend line from the 410 high from October 27th and draw it through the November high, and that'll give us a bit of a well, I guess we're already broken over.
Yeah, I was going to say we've already kind of broken, but you know what? I'm going to leave that on there because a possible back test of that level might come into play in the future. So, okay, really good stuff there. We're looking for 139, 140 as your 65 EMA on the daily. One more I wanted to cover here real quick before I do talk about Ondis very briefly. This is going to be SIDU, ticker SIDU. This is another one from the space theme here. Several of you folks are on this one. SIDU, of course, this morning popped up towards like 585, just shy of 6. Backed off that a little bit, back down here at 5, but still holding higher here. SIDU Space appoints aerospace executive Kelly Wendling to its board of directors. Now, I'm not familiar with this person. 13 of you are. I'd love to hear about it. Board of directors appointment. This has been in a hot theme. It's already been on a run. Looks like it's extending that a little bit here today. Short interest on this, it has grown. 14.71% of the float shorted, but only 1.09 days to cover. On average, stock trades 22 million shares. It's already done 17 million here today. I don't think you're going to have any trouble. Float on this one's 54 million. 13, you got any areas here on SIDU?
So the board of directors addition, I don't really think that's too big of the news. What's been driving this has been the offering, the capital raise, and the defense contract. That's really what's been driving this. And since the day after Christmas, this thing is now up 165%. Fantastic movement here. And this was one where I was being a little bit cautious on, like, let's wait for the capital raise, or there was an issue with this that I didn't like, and I think we got past that. There was at the funding. I'm pretty sure that's what I was concerned about. So now that that's out of the way, this is able to go on a run. We were printing over 5 earlier. Now we've since come back in. Let me look at a 5-minute chart here. So $5 was a pretty big spot, as was 510. We're continuing to come in lower. I think 465 is going to be your next stop here for support. You have the 200 EMA on the 5-minute right there, and also 465 was a previous resistance area going into the close of on Friday. So 465. Oh, perfect. 465. That's the spot. SIDU.
Okay, perfect. Folks, we are open here. We're going to be joining you here for, again, another half hour before we let you go for the day. We'll be checking in on all of these movers. One other thing I wanted to mention here before I turn it over to 13 to do a quick opening rundown. Andas. So I know this has been a show favorite here. Congrats to everybody that is still in this. Even the hater that said, hey, I bought this at 10 when it was selling down to 5 and they were upset at me. Congrats to you too. Positive vibes to everybody. We are back above $11 here. Just as kind of a reminder here, I have more trimming to do at 12 and 15. Those are good till cancel orders. I'm just going to leave out there. We did have some news today that they're actually going to host an Investors Day on January 16th. So quick look at the calendar here. Today, Monday, January 5th. January 16th is going to be next Friday. Now, Eric is going to discuss a lot of the strategic growth, a lot of the core initiatives. He was gracious enough to come on with us and discuss that. Now it looks like we're going to get an update. Really looking forward to that. Again, that's a week from Friday, ticker ONDS. Okay, 13, looks like we've got some more stuff moving here. I'm not surprised to see Schlumberger and some oil names on the scanner here. COP, ConocoPhillips, the one that I had told you about, that's also on here. Verify Me's moving. So I'm going to step away for just one sec. Call the ball.
All right, so we have Momentus getting some momentum out of the gate here, but it only went up to 1097. Now, we did slightly enter that gap we were looking for, but we did back off prior to reaching 11. So clearly there's some sellers in the way there that don't want this to gap fill. We need to see some more volume in this, continued volume. I think we can get more into that gap fill area. We'll see if that's what we end up getting here. GHRS that initially sold off out of the gate, and it went down to the almost to the 65 EMA, just past that area we were looking at support. So now it's trying to recapture that area. Maybe we do get a turnaround here with GHRS. VRME, this is down out of the gate, losing VWAP, trying to get some support from the 15 EMA. SMXT, this continued to sink into the open, popped and hit the VWAP, but we haven't been able to capture it quite yet. DataVault also had a pop out of the gate as well, went up to 145. And then Cytospace, here we are down at that area, that exact area of 465 that I was looking at for support. It just bounced off the 200 EMA. It's currently hitting the 465 price level and just went through it. So let's see if it holds up above. Let's see if it holds this area here where there was some sideways consolidation from the after hours, and see if it can recapture the 200 EMA. And that's,
which one were you looking at? Sorry.
That was Saidu. Went right down to that area we were talking about, went through it, printed this just beneath it, and now it just recaptured it. So maybe Saidu gets a little bit of a reversal here and tries to trade back up. It would be great to see this go back over 5. But we'll see what we end up getting.
Looks like that 465 support that we outlined from the pre-market pulse segment so far is supporting that. We'll see if that's strong enough or if that gives it up. CVX, this is going to be from our theme here. Pullback happening here in some of these oil names. Lion, right away, shout out to you. Remember, Lion was saying, hey, be careful with this. We don't know everything yet. Maybe don't chase the move here. Now we're getting a little bit of a pullback. This is CVX. Let's also take a look at COP, which is Conoco. This is another one that I thought this less of a pullback here. XOM, this was mentioned by one of our viewers, Big Bees. That's also pulling back here. So I would ask initially here, is this a profit-taking move? Is this setting up for a possible dip buy?
Look at Momentus. This thing has momentum. This thing is gap filling right now.
Sure is. And so remember, we had that gap fill 1080 to 1450 at 1125 right now. Good stuff for anyone that's on Momentus.
This thing is just absolutely
what a move
right now. Oh, that's a great start to the year.
Yeah, let me refresh Pro here and get that little hover over thing gone.
Yeah, this thing is really filling right now. 1165.
Cam says it's got to be a dip buy. That's kind of what I'm thinking here too, Cam. But I do like Lion's viewpoint here. Maybe don't just chase it. Rather kind of wait this out. That to me seems like a really smart move, but I'm with you on that. I think it's a dip buy here. Sell says exuberance on oil. I'd let it settle before trading. Seems like we're all kind of on the same page there. We'll take that. Kathy, good morning, Kathy, and Happy New Year to you. SLS, it's up 9% here today and has a great daily chart. This is going to be SELLAS Life Sciences here. This is Did I get the right thing here? It's not up 9%. It was earlier today. I see where you're going with that. Here's what it looks like. Look at this daily chart. It looks like the breakout is already coming. It's like the breakout is already happening here.
And what is this on? Is this on peptides?
Cellus Life Sciences, I believe so. Yeah, here, that was actually in this overview here. Late stage clinical biopharma company focused on the development of novel therapeutics and broad range of cancer. No, this is not. This is cancer immunotherapy.
Okay.
So I must have been that. I think you might have been talking about EXAS. Maybe I'm mixing that up. Nonetheless, though, this is a good mention here. Kathy, I don't like chasing the daily chart here. I don't like chasing that big move. Nonetheless, Omerica says, I love Ondas. Yeah, I'm glad it's working for you folks. Shan Lu, real quick. Shan Lu was saying it's been a moneymaker for me, especially with options. Great. Glad you folks are able to print from that.
We have a mover from Friday that's been doing really well. Ironwood Pharmaceuticals. This is...
Yep, I traded this.
Yeah, this is up 15% this morning.
Now, this one, let me tell you something. This one, I will say, I definitely missed you guys over the Christmas break too. But while I was sitting in front of my terminal on Friday morning before I started with my day, I was like, oh man, this would have been perfect for the show. This thing had a catalyst on Friday. It dropped right out of the open, literally held the VWAP on the drop, found support at the VWAP, and immediately turned around. This to me was... This had everything you needed for a trade. It had an underlying catalyst, so this is why we were going to trade it. It dropped down to a support area. That allowed us to put our entry on. You can put a stop pretty tight beneath that entry area, and the stock just ramped from there. And I know it bled back here today, so 13, I'm interested in the fact that this is trading up by about 15% here today. Lo and behold, look where we are. Basically right to where we lost VWAP, $5 about there on Friday. So maybe we get some more continuation here on IRWD.
Yeah, it's interesting that this is moving so well with a 107 million share float. But this might end up coming right back up to that 575 area where it topped out on Friday. Maybe even go past it. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what happens.
Now, I'm not in this one here today, but looking at this one, I would wait to see where this firms up. I wouldn't necessarily try and chase a move up towards 5 there. We'll see what happens if it breaks 5. I think it could also run into some resistance there. DVLT, this popped, looks like that 139 area that we were talking about. Looks like that is coming into play here. Can't break it yet. We peaked above it, but couldn't close above it. 13, that spot looks crispy.
Yeah. Data center starting to move back up. Just thinking about it. How about levels on AVAV? Sure, we can look at AVAV. That's going to be, we have a gentleman in our happy hour who provided a list of all the different companies that have contracts with the Navy. So they're on there, AVAV. And this one is having a nice morning, up 8%. Let's see what we got here. So this is up at a trend line that I've got. So if you want to draw it yourself, here's how I started it. The June high from 2024 through the November high of 2024. You keep that line going. We are right at that trend line today. So we might be coming up to some resistance. If we do go past this trend line, we have the 50-day SMA at about 290, 291. That could also provide some resistance. So that's going to be the next two resistance areas I see from here.
I also added that trend line here on the AVAV stock chart. One more thing to keep in mind, we actually predicted a possible head and shoulders on this. We drew out the right shoulder on where it would form. And the pop today, we're right at 13's trend line. But if we clear that trend line out, watched for this over the next several sessions here, this might actually be forming a head and shoulders. So just kind of keep that in mind here real quick. Good stuff. And then Big B's here saying defense stocks are running. Lockheed Martin is the one that was mentioned there. Remember, we talked a little bit about LHX earlier here today. Here's Lockheed Martin. This also at a resistance area, Big B's. You think we break this? I think if we break this, I gotta think 550 is coming next year. This is ticker LMT Lockheed Martin.
No problem, Joe.
And by the way, those oil names continue to pull back here. ConocoPhillips and CVX coming in off of their pop. Remember, what I'm looking for here is where does it look like this is going to kind of simmer out? Where does it look like this is going to kind of hold and find some support? That might be our tradable spot here. So far, the word of warning of maybe slowing your roll a little bit, taking this a little bit slower. That one so far has seemed to work. Oh, one more thing I wanted to cover here real quick because we got asked directly about this was Netflix. Izzy, you were asking about Netflix. The holidays are over. This thing does look like maybe it's kind of firming up here. 13. I think you had a target of about $80. Looks like we might be finding some support here about 88 and change. That's going to be your 500-day moving average. I would say this, Izzy, if this really kind of firms up here, trades sideways a little bit here, I'd be interested in taking a stab at this. I'd be interested in taking a stab at this one. Better still, if we can trade beneath this 500 and recapture it in short order, I would try it. I don't know if this is going to be the big move higher here. Maybe we want this to kind of capitulate a little bit lower. Still worried about that deal. But as far as the chart actually goes here, a move beneath this moving average and a recapture would trigger a long swing for me.
I can see this getting support down just under 90 around the 500-day SMA. It may go a little bit lower, but if that ends up happening where we get a reversal, there's two things that I'd be wanting to watch for at that point. The 20-day SMA, if that gets recaptured, that could be bullish. You can see that since October, the price has kind of ridden the 20-day SMA down to the downside here. So if we recapture that, that could be a good sign, but I'm still concerned about the 50-day SMA, which I think the price could get rejected at. So
and that's at 103.
Yeah, we're only a month into this death cross that just happened, so I don't think that we're going to see it over quickly. I think it could we could have some prolonged period of downside with a lot of back and forth. You're going to get some rebounds here and there. So that's kind of what I'd be looking at here. I'd be looking at, are we going to get support from the 500-day SMA? If that's a yes, can we recapture the 20-day SMA? And if that's a yes, I'm going to be concerned about the 50.
Okay. Really good stuff there on Netflix. Izzy, it looks like we're kind of in a waiting period still on Netflix to see if it can tell us what its next move is. DVLT, one of our movers from the pre-market pulse segment. This is above the resistance at 139. It actually looks like this is trying to print some new highs here. Several of you are mentioning a couple of other stocks that were moving. Yeah, go ahead. What do you got?
Large seller and DVLT at 150.
Okay, and here's Alt, another one from our movers list here this morning. Alt, this is at the pre-market resistance area and through. So Alt now, okay, so if you were in Alt here, the way I would be trading this, I have no position on this, but this kind of reminds me of IRWD, right? We dropped right out of the open. We recaptured the VWAP there. That would have been the long trigger there. This is definitely resistance one. So this is, in terms of an actual trade here, definitely trim some of this here, let the rest of it run, and then put a stop so that this trade can't go red on you. Alt, I agree with H&H Tactical. This one's looking good. Nice little catalyst. This is moving to the upside.
You on a daily chart for Alt, you have the price dealing with the 20, 200, and 50-day SMAs all in the same area right now. And if we can get through that, then we're going to be experiencing a gap fill that will take it up to $5. So that's, this is a big resistance area. So we need to get past, I'd say we need to get past 460 in order to see that gap completely filled. If we can't get above these moving averages, we're going to turn around and head back south.
Okay, so 460 needs to be the next spot there on Alt. Really good stuff. Kathy's mentioning ASTI as a solar name. That's up 30% here. Solar, excuse me, this absolutely is ripping here. Didn't actually see kind of an entry move in here, I guess, unless you were looking at the intraday highs from Friday on that 475 move. We also had SMXT. This was SolarMax technology. This is one of the movers that we had earlier. Lo and behold, this came back in, held $1. Actually, looks like it's trying to hold its 15 EMA there, down there at about 107. Maybe this bounces here. ASTI halted to the upside there, also in the solar theme that we had discussed earlier here today.
I've been doing a lot of reverse splits.
Verify Me looks like this is now trying to recapture the VWAP, struggling with it right now. VWAP there at 102. This one I'm going to kind of back off. By the way, Bitcoin at the highs here, 93,700 on the futures. We did recapture 93K. I'm also noticing that ETHA, the Ethereum traded ETF, this actually looks pretty good. This looks like this might try and take out 24 and go on a run as well. Ondas bouncing after its profit-taking move. I'll take that.
DVLT running into that 150 seller.
Another good mention here from our list. One of the other things that we had talked about a little bit as kind of a theme going into 2026 was going to be investment banking. Goldman Sachs ripping out of the gate here. Here's what the Goldman chart looks like. Look, folks, if you thought IPOs and investment banking was going to be a theme here in 2026, Goldman Sachs so far early on this year telling you giddy up. That's on. The Morgan Stanley chart looks the same. So these two themes and swings still intact here, albeit early here this year, but those still moving. Verify Me did in fact recapture its VWAP.
So one thing that's interesting here about Goldman Sachs, because this was a company that in our conversations with the Venezuela situation, that this could be a company that does really well because they bought 2.8 billion of bonds from Petróleos de Venezuela. It's their state-owned oil company. So this might be a good thing for Goldman Sachs because they have a big, deeply discounted debt investment with their state-backed oil company. So this might end up being a good payday for Goldman Sachs if everything goes their way. So that's another reason why this could be moving the stock as it relates to Venezuela.
Okay, good stuff there. Izzy mentioning Amazon. Izzy, I was thinking about you on Friday because Amazon popped out of the gate. This actually looked like a bull trap for me. Amazon immediately sold off to this 226 area. Today, it actually looks like we're trying to retake that. We're still kind of in a sideways area here. 233 looks to be the spot that we would really want to break out from. Maybe that sends us to 240 here. Izzy, let me know what kind of trade you have going on Amazon here today. I know that this has moved right out of the gate. We actually talked a little bit about this compared to Walmart, which was another retail favorite. So far, Walmart underperforming Amazon. This actually popped out of the open, came all the way back in. Walmart, excuse me here, slightly red, Amazon outperforming.
Supri, I don't know how much higher Data Vault's going to go with that seller in the way, and it continues to pile up. So if the volume expands and takes that seller out, the next area I see that for resistance could be $2, but it's still for me a question of whether or not we're going to see that volume that's going to take us through all those orders at 150. We're going to, if we don't get that, then I think we just end up coming back in. So going to need to see that volume expansion that takes a price over 150. If it does, I think $2 is going to be your next resistance.
Saidu Space gave back its entire morning pop here. It's worth noting that this is about where it closed on Friday. It is down by 2.77%, but it's 12 cents under where it closed there before. G-Man saying, Ryan 13, I heard a lot of comments about Walmart to be the retail of the year. Yes, as a matter of fact, you did hear that because, and that was actually one of the things that I was talking about earlier. I gave you that story. Here it is, G-Man. You can go through this if you want. The TLDR here, TD Cowen's Oliver Chen is optimistic about consumer momentum and likes Walmart the most. That story for you there in the chat. But you heard correctly. I've been hearing some of the same things as well. You guys are mentioning that Ondas, that is ripping here again. Indeed, I would love to get 12 here today. Remember, I'll trim a little bit more here. We're going to use the J. Rice method of trimming often when the stock makes gigantic moves away from its price basis. So, Jay, you did a wonderful job with LEU last year. We all should have taken note from that. I'm going to do that here again on Ondas. My next spot, $12. We'll see if we get that here today. Ondas. Remember, next Friday, a week from this Friday, so January 16th, I believe that is, they're going to have an Investors Day where Eric is going to be talking about the future prospects here for Ondas. That should be pretty good. That should be pretty good. Taking a look here, Intel. This is actually trading on some pretty high volume. This reversed. Remember, we had a news report here about how AMD seems to be gaining market share back in the gaming sector. Seems that 13, I don't know if you saw this, but Steam did a hardware survey where it shows that AMD chips are continuing to gain market share over Intel. It's at about, I think, 47% now. That's up from, I think, 35% the last time they did this.
Well, I think with the issue that Intel had with their, I think it was their Raptor Lake CPUs. It was like their 13th and 14th gen CPUs. There was a problem with those, and I think it really soured a lot of people in the gaming industry on Intel. So they moved over to AMD. That's I think where I would kind of pin it on. I don't know for a fact that's why they're getting market share, but Intel has struggled, not just in the AI space, but also in the gaming space as well.
Okay, perfect. And also, really quickly here, G-Man saying Ondas looks like above 1170. So I agree completely with that exact spot. I really do. That is the high from the last move that we made. This is the 1170 area that you're talking about. It is in fact exactly 1170 if you're very precise with it. This, to me, if we are able to recapture this, I think that this stock actually breaks out. Remember, we had talked about drones really kind of being an emphasis of national defense in 2026. The administration has told us that. The actions have told us that. You guys had mentioned earlier today that some of the defense names like Lockheed Martin were up. I wouldn't be surprised if this starts trading with that entire theme here. A break above this 1170 here would be great. That'd be a new high on this. This chart would be looking awfully good.
I like the drone theme again this year. I think we might end up seeing some drone companies at CES, but I think the ones that I'm going to be more focused on for this year are going to be the underwater drones. Ever since the underwater drones took out those Russian submarines while they were at port, not a blockade, but a port that has security gates. I think that's going to be a big thing. So drones and anti-drone technologies, I think underwater drones are going to be big movers this year, I believe.
Okay, Gary here saying, check out UMAC. This is another one in the drone theme. I don't think this is one of the underwater drones. I have a tough time remembering which of those. I think Kit was one of them. Anyway, UMAC, this is a pretty good drone stock. This is looking pretty good. What's going on with VRME? This is one of our movers.
Yep. Yeah, we just had a big move that it's trying to recapture. It just recaptured the dollar, trying to get back over 110. Remember, if this comes up to 115, that's been the resistance area. We're going to want to see a breakout over 115 that takes us up beyond the pre-market highs.
Okay, so this was really good. This was a recapture of the VWAP that we talked about with VRME. We talked about 115 being the resistance area and the possible breakout spot. It looks like we are getting ready to challenge that here. And Joe, you're in good company. Viewer Voodoo here says, I feel the same way with underwater drones. Voodoo, what I would say, if the list is different, and it might not be, and that's fine, but if you have any stocks that you're following or looking at here, would love to hear about some of those. We'll keep checking in. I'm big on the drone theme, as you know. Verify Me, it's going up to that resistance point.
Yeah, and a couple of stocks, a couple of tickers that I've been keeping an eye on, and I'm sure there's some better ones out there, but two that are involved in the underwater drone space are going to be OPTT and KITT.
Kit, that was the one that I was mentioning. Kit, and then OPTT. Thank you, 13. Thank you, 13.
If you've got a second here, go to SIDU and look at a 5-minute chart. And I want you to look at the high from the 31st, December 31st. It was toward the end of the day. I want you to start drawing a trend line from there through the impulse high the following day on the 2nd of January. Not the high of the day, but just out of the gate, that high, that it should be 417. If you draw a trend line from the high from the previous day through that high, that's going to give you a trend line that the price just came down. And we just broke through it, but I was looking at that as support. This is going to be a big trend line for me. I'm going to watch to see if we do break beneath this. This is going to be a resistance trend line. But if we manage to hold above this, it's going to be a support trend line. So just something I'm keeping an eye on with SIDU on the 5-minute.
Okay, really good stuff there with SIDU. We marked that as having 465 as that initial support. It gave that up. That was the 200 EMA. Now it looks like we're at the trend line here. So another possible support. I would say if you're going to trade some of these off support, do it with tight stops. No reason to be a hero here this early on.
ASTI, I think they just came out of a halt. They're up to 665 now, up 60% on the day. Don't know how high this one's going to go, but I thought it was worth mentioning because I saw that I had this on my screen and I just saw the sudden movement, so I wasn't even following that it was halted, but looks like it was.
Okay, ASTI, this was a good mention earlier here. Also, really quick check-in here. Lion Atlas, definitely pat yourself on the back here today. And anyone else that said, hey, this oil theme, there's definitely going to be some plays here, but I think that the right thing to do here is wait this out. This is what the charts look like. COP giving back its initial pop. CVX, which is Chevron, this doing the same thing. We'll see if this finds support here at 160. XOM, which is another chart that we took a look at in this theme, the same thing. We're seeing the exact same thing here. So that initial pop in some of those oil names getting sold into. Let's wait and see where these firm before we take a trade. This is definitely something that I'm going to be stalking, but I'm in no hurry to try and do this a little bit early on this. I definitely want to see how this all shakes out. Yeah.
I don't know if it's being pulled down by this this price target of 98 from Bernstein, but it's interesting that we're trading down to where we're at right now, because if you look at the price action from Friday, we're coming down to a support area at about 97. So
and I'm sorry, which one is this?
This is COP.
COP. Sorry, I had XOM. I talked about 3. I had XOM. My bad.
So if this comes down here to 97, I'm curious to see if this consolidation here from Friday and going into the after hours is going to provide that support that we're looking for here. So could be an interesting area here, 97 on COP.
Okay, and we're pretty much right there. And then the other thing is if it does hold that 97 and maybe recaptures this 200 EMA on the 5. Maybe we have a move back up to VWAP, and that would even mean a decent short-term trade here. A couple of more stocks. I know we're running out of time here, folks. Just wanted to go over some of these. Let's see. Alpha Trade says oils will fade. Alpha Trade, let me know. Is that like a short move that you're trying to capture? Are you interested in buying if they fade into a support area? How are oil's fading? That's totally fine. Let me know what you think in terms of possible buy areas for that. And then looking around here, Costco's higher. You love to see it. Goldman Sachs still pounding the highs. Boy, oh boy, what a move that is.
ASTI halted down.
Which one? Sorry?
ASTI
halted to the downside. Okay, good mention.
And I'm not seeing anything too exciting right now. It looks like VRME is running into that same resistance at 115 we were talking about earlier. So if we get a series of upper shadows here, maybe this does come back in. So just be careful with VRME. It looks like it wants to try and go higher and break out over this 115 area. But volume is starting to fade a little bit. I'm not liking the way these candles are looking. Still need another 5 minutes or so, but man, it's not looking like this is going to get that 115 yet.
Nope. And I'll tell you what, this was great from our pre-market plan. We had this one pegged 13, and those levels are absolutely playing true yet again here. The breakout spot was 115. We never really did that, at least yet. Even though we pulled back to some of these support areas, we did a pretty decent job holding $1 there, unable to retake that breakout spot yet so far.
SMXT, that battery name, this one on 2 occasions already has tried to recapture the VWAP in the regular session, both times rejected. But as long as this doesn't break down beneath $1, I think that if it continues to hammer this VWAP, it eventually will break through. So as long as that's the parameters I have here for SMXT. As long as this holds above $1 and keeps trying to push through that VWAP, I think it'll eventually get it. It's got to hold above $1 though.
Okay, good stuff there. Let's check in on some of the others. We'll do a rundown here before we sign off on all of the different movers and some of the stocks that we talked about. Hey, look at that. Altimmune, that move up there, right up to the pre-market high, 450, clearly seems to be the resistance area there on Altimmune. I don't know if we're going to be able to take that here today. So far, so good.
Looks like SIDU is trying to get some support and a bit of a lift here. We went back up to VWAP. It's over 4. We'll see if that trend line that I drew is going to, hold up here. But trying to turn around because there is a seller in the way at about 425. We'll see if we can get through that. But for now, trying to find some momentum here to turn around.
And then one question that I'd like to pose to the group here, Bitcoin. There was a question here. Let me see if I can find it here. Yes. And by the way, as you guys are doing, please keep the feedback coming. Jeremy, it was Jeremy's comment. Did crypto just need a new calendar year before it decided to start a reversal? Bitcoin here does look strong here today, recapturing 94K. We'll see if that has actually started a reversal there. I know Bitcoin is going to be one of those things that we're definitely going to be looking for more trades here this year. I know MicroStrategy really beaten down towards the end of the year. It sure looks like 150 held that so far. MicroStrategy up 6% here today. All right, 13, we're at the end here, which means we're going to go to the wrap-up section here. We just want to wrap up on a couple of the stocks that we had talked about here today. I'm going to go ahead and start with some of the oil stocks. That was the big macro theme that we were taking a look at. Here's what the open did to these. It's basically just a pullback here. So the pop, the after hours pop, that tested the high end of the range. Starting here with ConocoPhillips, we basically traded up to the 500. We've come all the way back in. Remember, a lot of these charts before they started to move, they were sitting right on some of these moving averages. So bleeding back some of the gains, not the end of the world. However, if it loses some of these moving averages, that might cause us to take a look at the next plan here. COP was the first stock that we took a look at. Here's CVX. This also bleeding back some of its gains, still holding above all of those moving averages. And then XOM was the last one that we discussed here for the theme. All of these looking very, very similar. XOM, the one the furthest from some of those moving averages. Now, 13, let's really quickly wrap up some of the movers here. We're going to start with VRME, which is one we just talked about. We had talked about this one being 115 as the resistance area and the possible breakout spot. We're right on there. Any other thoughts here to close out VRME?
Yeah, we need to see that volume expand right here to get through this 115 and take out that 117 high. If this happens, we do have a lot of sellers in the way in the 120s. So I don't know that we're going to see a big breakout here with all these sellers in the way. But if it just is going to take a massive amount of volume or a big whale to come on in and just take out those sellers. So unless that happens, I don't know that we're going to be going a whole lot higher in this stock.
Okay, next one on our list to wrap up here is going to be SMXT. That was another mover here. This one's in the solar theme that we had taken a look at. Hey, look at that. VWAP still stopping us. Yep. This found some support there at the 15 EMA. We traded up to the VWAP. We couldn't get above it. You got any thoughts on this one?
Same as I said before, this has to hold above $1 and continue to try and push through that VWAP. Eventually, it could get it as long as it holds above $1. We start trading beneath the dollar, I'm going to be getting real nervous that this is going to be the trade is going to be over, and there's going to be maybe some sideways consolidation. Maybe it comes back later on in the day. You do have the 65 EMA down around 95 cents. That might provide some support, but I don't know how great this is going to be if it loses $1. I think this needs to hold above $1 in order for it to get above VWAP, and that's really all I've got to say about SMXT.
Okay, next one here on our list is going to be momentous. This is MNTS, and I think 13, you had a really good breakdown on this one earlier. We talked about the number one thing to keep in mind here. They need cash, and they might have a capital raise. So if you've been trading this successfully here today, great. Don't get too greedy on it. We had a 950 area as resistance. It now looks like that's being tested as support, and we had that possible gap fill from 1080 up to 1450. It actually flashed like we were going to try and do that. But we've come back in here. Let's see if we can hold that 950 support. We actually just dropped beneath it. You have any thoughts here on MNTS?
I think this comes down to 8. And you might get some support just beneath it around the 65 EMA, which is at 766. But this looks like, to me, this is coming back down to the 8 area. It got support in there from that area in the pre-market following the impulse move. So I'm going to just lean on that for now. The 65 EMA and $8, next two support areas I see from here.
Okay, perfect. The next stock on our list here is going to be GHRS. This was GH Research. This was also one of our stocks in focus. No bueno on this one. We actually lost the 65 EMA on the 5-minute here. We talked about 1720 kind of being a support area for this. We also talked about resistance being the trend line, that 13 outline there at 1840. We were unable to take that, so we'll see if we can firm up and maybe take that here. I'd love to see a recapture of this EMA. We'll see if we end up getting that. Any further thoughts here on GHRS?
You might get some support around 16. You also have the 200 EMA down around 1551. That's be the next couple of support areas I see with this one. But this one is a biotech, right? This was the one that got the news of the FDA.
Yes, this was FDA IND status and phase 3 program, correct.
So that's a green light to spend more money, basically. And that's, where this loses its appeal. So it had great news that they're going to develop their drug, but that just means that they're going to be burning through cash again. And for that reason, the company is going to probably lose its value. So I would think for the purpose of trading today, you might see it come down to $16 or the 200 EMA. Just watch for the price action around the 65 EMA for now. It might try to recapture it, but I still get the sense that it's going to need a lot of volume if it's going to get back above the 65 and the VWAP. So 16 and the 200 EMA downside support areas.
Okay, DVLT, one of our other stocks here. This did come into that 65 EMA. So far, it's found support as that. We are still beneath the VWAP here at 135. We talked about the real resistance area here being 139. That's your 65 EMA on the daily. We tried to take that, couldn't yet. That's still in play here today. 215 was our high upside target. 13, what do you think of this holding 127, that 65 EMA on the 5?
Great that it's holding the 65 EMA. Not so great that we're having a hard time trying to get back above the VWAP and recapture that. That's going to be at about 135, 135 to 140. You do have some resistance. Even after that, you have a lot of sellers in the way at in the high 140s and at 150. That's still the same 150 that rejected the price earlier. This is where I had the concern about the price not going a whole lot higher without the volume because of that seller at 150. So even if we managed to get back above VWAP, I still think that seller 150 is going to be trouble. And looking right now, we are struggling to hold above the 65 EMA. I don't know how great this one's going to be for the morning. Maybe this comes back and it trades better in the afternoon. But from here, if we lose the 65 EMA, I think we gap fill. You see the gap from the after hours to the pre-market. I think we gap fill down to the 200 EMA down around 111 if we can't hold the 65 EMA.
And our last stock here on the wrap up is going to be Saidu. And wow, look at this. You want to talk about wrapping up a Christmas gift? That trend line did exactly that. It has bounced off of that trend line clean. I currently have that value at exactly $4. $4, that round number, seemingly going to come into play here. Any final thoughts here on Saidu?
It's a lot to get excited about with Saidu, but just keep in mind this did have a 160% run following the day of Christmas. That's not too long ago, so it's been on a massive run. I would still expect this to come back in some more, so we might get a lot of back and forth throughout the day, but I don't think I'd be getting too excited about upside because of how much of a run it's gone on. However, it is going to be one of the space plays that I think we should keep our eyes on. There could be some more news coming out with this that could drive it further, but for now, just keep in mind it's had a massive gain, and there's probably going to be people looking to take profits.
Okay, really good stuff. 13, that concludes the wrap up. Really good stuff here for the first day. Any closing words for the group?
Folks, happy to be back here with y'all. Happy to be back in the new year. Looking forward to seeing what we end up getting here. Looking forward to seeing what you guys bring to the table. I'm excited. Ryan, I'm sure you're excited. Let's have a great year, all right, folks? I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.
Indeed, I am excited. And I personally thank you, 13. I think this was a great start to the year here. I know not everyone's thrilled with the new time frame that our show has. It is what it is. Keep that feedback coming. As mentioned at the beginning of this show, nothing is set in stone for 2026. We're just trying to formalize and make better all of the stuff that we're doing here today. So hope that prepared you at least for the trading day. We're going to check back in with you tomorrow. We're going to be right back at this again tomorrow. Couple of other questions. I saw some of you ask, are we still going to have Anne-Marie on? Yes, Anne-Marie is actually still traveling, so we're not going to have her tomorrow, but I think, don't hold me to this, but I think we're going to have her on Friday. We are absolutely looking to bring Anne-Marie back. She's going to come in at the end of the show, and we are also looking to keep our other guests like Mark Petrino, Tim Melvin, T3, and all of the CEOs that we interview. We're going to keep those slots the same as well. So none of that stuff is going anywhere. Folks, have a great rest of your day. Please keep that feedback coming. Stay green, stay safe, stay focused. And as a reminder, if you want to trade with the Benzinga ecosystem all day long, scan the QR code at the top right corner of your screen. Get access to Benzinga Pro. We have multiple different price levels there, and you'll be able to join us. We'll be back at this again tomorrow. Stay green, stay safe, stay focused.